Hello and welcome. My name is JodieLynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness, and this is my dear friend Heather Marie.
Hi, I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate. Welcome to Channel Squared, where we have extraordinary conversations about everyday life topics.
Yeah, and
Except today.
Exactly. We are right out of this this planet with this topic today. We are talking to Quinn Smith, founder of Safe Expansion, and we're going to be talking all about New Earth, what it is, how it was created, who lives there so far, and so much more. So welcome, Quinn.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
We're doing awesome. We even wore hoodies just for you.
Yeah, it's not normal that I'm not wearing a hoodie. So usually I'm rocking a hoodie. So
that's right. We wanted to honor our co-host. So where should we dive in with this conversation about New Earth? Because we've got tons of questions, but Quinn, you want to lead us where we should start in our line of questioning? Like, should we start with what is or where is New Earth?
What is, I think, is the best way of putting it, because people might not be aware of what is New Earth or what we mean when we say that. So when I say New Earth, I literally mean like Earth 2.0, or like another physical planet that is a new version of Earth, is the easiest way to describe it. So if we were to go to a different planet and inhabit it, that would be New Earth. In my opinion, that's where we would go.
A whole new place.
Correct.
A whole new dimension. Oh my gosh.
A new world. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Perfect. A whole new world. This sparks the question of how do we get there, but we're not there yet. So where is it?
So just briefly going back into what it is. So it is it is a physical place. It's like a physical environment. It is a place. It is a planet. The best way to describe it, like I said, is New Earth. But there is differences between our current Earth and New Earth. It's not just like the same things like across the board. The major differences are the densities that reside on New Earth. It's what we would call above 6 density, or 6 and above. So right now we reside in like the 3rd, 4th, and possibly 5th, depending on, where you vibrate on. And that mostly means like if you vibrate on a low level, then you're kind of more on the 3rd density. If you vibrate at a higher level, then you're more on like the 4th and 5th plane. And so New Earth exists on the 5th plane. So it's residing at a higher density, but it's a less dense environment. It feels lighter. It doesn't feel like you're being crushed by everything around you energetically. So you're essentially, it's like an elevated sense of reality is like the best way that I would describe it in the terms that you experience reality right now. So it's like only experiencing high level vibrations. And when I say that, like love, peace, joy, ease, flow, those are the main things that I mean when I say high level vibrations. And when I mean like low level density, that's like anger, hate, fear. Those things exist on this plane and we experience them on a regular basis, potentially, but on the 6th density, those lower vibrations don't exist. So the easiest way to describe it right now for people who aren't actually there and not like physically interacting with it, it's more like a state of mind, like living in a higher density dimension with less dense, meaning there's more ease, more peace, more calm, more flow of energy. So that's how I would describe what New Earth is in a nutshell.
Okay, so I have a question. Sorry, Jodie, to cut you off, but
I'm just
I know, right? First of all, I am a Quinn super fan. So
thank you.
Me too.
Anybody who knows me knows I'm a Quinn super fan. So what I would like to know is if it is like in a specific like density, and it's like a higher level density, and that higher level density feels lighter.
Mm-hmm.
can we like, can we straddle the line? Can we be in this earthly density and still be somehow, some way in new earth density? Like,
So yeah, that's a good question. Physically, you can obviously only be at one place and one time. You can astral travel there, or you can again raise your vibration and essentially, excuse me, get closer to assimilate with the frequency that is new earth. And we'll talk about how to get there, and that will make more sense once we discuss like how we actually arrive at new earth. But the more that you live in like a state of flow and ease, and like you use love as like the core value of your decisions, then you're essentially getting closer and closer to what the new earth density feels like. Because if you're always in a state of peace, calm, ease, it's like if you're on vacation, like in the Bahamas or whatever your favorite, destination is, when you're just like in a state of bliss, and it's not worrying about work, you're not worrying about, your normal burdens that you would call them per se, or responsibilities of what you have to do on a regular basis. You're kind of just living in the moment and not worrying about all those things. And everything is just so beautiful and vibrant, and people are just so lovely and kind. That's like the best way that I would equate it to, like in a metaphor sense of like, that's how you would feel if you were living in new earth. So essentially getting close to how that feels on a regular basis is you getting closer to assimilating the vibration that represents new earth. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most difficult things to understand is I know I do anyway. I shouldn't speak for anyone else, but I know that throughout my journey of spirituality, that coming back to the physical body, the physical, what you see right in front of you, that we kind of get stuck there. So it's really like breaking your brain open, that you're energetically, and correct me if I'm wrong, energetically starting to live on a different plane. And then eventually physically we will live in this new space.
Correct.
Is that correct?
So you can essentially like ground yourself to new earth. I'm not sure if people are familiar. I'm sure most of your audience is familiar with grounding themselves. But if you can essentially have the intent of grounding yourself on new earth, you're kind of connecting or cording yourself to new earth in a way where you're pulling on that sort of energy that it represents. Like I said, like on the basis of love. So that's how you get there closestly, by living in a vibration of love. And you can essentially pull on the energy or cord yourself to new earth by essentially grounding yourself there, or like with the intent of like connecting with it to essentially pull on what it represents as like a support system. Before you actually physically reside there, you can essentially interact with it on an energetic level to help you get to that physical experience.
Wow. Okay. All right. I have another question.
Sure.
Why is this new planet like, yes, where did this new planet come from? Who created it, Quinn? And why was it created at this time?
Well, that's a couple of questions. So I'll answer why first. Like, why was it created? And essentially, it was created as like a place for like multi-dimensional beings, or various species to coexist in harmony. We think of species, as plants, animals, and such and such. But there are other beings like Octurians or Palladians, or vegans. I don't mean vegans like from Vega, but people from Vega, but like that reside from there. So it's different people from different multi-dimensions. They now reside in new earth, essentially beings that live or vibrate at this sixth dimension. But really what it was created for was for the experience of humanity to live with the joys of the sixth density, since pretty much everything of the sixth density comes from a place of love. And here there is, the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. Here, like their polarity doesn't exist. So it's just a coexist of peace, and even though beings from other places are coming around, it's everybody vibrates on that higher level of a state of love. So there's no like hate or, anger or whatever might spark confrontation between people that would lead to war or, injury or whatever. Things like that. So essentially those would be the top reasons for its existence.
I think about that, like those words are coming through my brain, and I'm thinking about it in the sense of, do you think, and maybe you can't answer this, but do you think that beings, souls that have come from the human earth experience of polarity, where good and evil coexists, do you think that those souls, when they come to New Earth, whether it be in this lifetime or the next, do you think that they are going to have any like issues adjusting because everybody's so blissed out and happy all the time? Or do you think they're going to be bored? I mean, what do you think?
Those are all possibilities. Is someone adjusting from like living in a low vibrational lifestyle, like being surrounded by, war or hate or disease or famine or whatever, things that are, ugly to experience in a sense. They could it could be a culture shock for them to actually be in a place that is the complete opposite, them not knowing what those things normally feel like, like just because someone is put in those positions or forced to live a specific life, it could be just their environment or influences around them that force them to do certain things. That doesn't mean that like at their core, they're a terrible person. We're all products of our environment and like our parents in a sense. So like we can only do so much to be individuals at an early age. And, if you come up from specific environments that are negative, but you're not necessarily a negative person, you can still go to New Earth. You can still shed all that burden, all that, regret or that negativity or whatever it is, and experience New Earth. And that absolutely might feel shocking to someone who's never experienced love before, experiencing it for the first time and not having to be in like a state of panic or fear or anger or like fight or flight sense. So I definitely think that is a possibility.
Do you think that they, I'm sorry, and I think I totally hijacked the second part of your question, Jodie, so you have to go back to that. But do you think that they will need to reach a certain state of enlightenment before they arrive if they're coming from this current Earth plane to the new Earth plane?
Absolutely. And kind of alluding to how we get there, kind of what I talked about before is like have to vibrate on a higher level and assimilate with that frequency to be able to like physically reside there. And if someone is always acting from a place of hatred and not from a place of love, then yeah, they will need to actually like make those steps necessary to like learn how to live in that frequency versus a lower frequency. So you could call that a state of enlightenment if you want, or just like journeying from the dark to the light, or transitioning from a state of lower vibration to higher vibration, however you want to like look at the journey or your perspective on it.
I have, as you were talking about the feelings that you will experience, like what New Earth is all about, I got this sense, and please correct me if I am wrong, but this sense that for as much as on this plane, like where we are right now, this planet, as much as we felt love or bliss or joy, that would be like here in the levels of how we could experience it. But on New Earth, it's like a whole nother level of all of those feelings. Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that. There are different levels of love that we experience. There's the unconditional love, there's like motherly love, there's, you know, the love that you have with your partner, there's love that you have with like family and relationships and friendships and stuff like that. So there's all those different variations of love. So I think experiencing like the spectrum of love constantly is something we'll definitely be new to, because usually it comes and goes in spurts. You never are always coming from, most of the time, not everyone is coming from a place of love all the time. It's very hard for us to like resist and like not act out or project, you know, when we're hurt or upset or frustrated, and to easily just kind of like let that roll off your back and always come a place of compassion and love. But yeah, I definitely think that I lost my train of thought for a second. What was your question?
There's new depths. Like we're going to experience everything on a new level.
Right. Yeah. You will experience like the whole spectrum of love. So definitely you would probably experience the higher ranges of love more frequent than you would normally. And then as well as the lower ones. But essentially you're always experiencing the intention of love behind people's decisions. So you're always in that sixth density, essentially.
Wow. All I feel is the visual that I see when I think about New Earth is like waves rolling in calmly and sitting on the beach with a margarita.
Totally. I'm totally down for that.
Yeah, that's right. Just relaxation. That's amazing. So the second part of my question was, who created New Earth?
Yeah, so my life purpose is to essentially create New Earth. So I will take credit for that. I created it. I can go into more of how I created it shortly, if you're interested. But yeah, this has essentially been my life's purpose through many lifetimes. If you believe in, you know, reincarnation and your soul having to essentially live up to a specific task or complete a specific task or have a specific experience, part of my, you know, life's work has been to create this multi-dimensional plane for species to live in harmony and essentially get humanity out of this plunge where polarity is essentially overtaking Earth as an experiment. And now there's, in my opinion, more, at least from what I see or what I perceive, it seems like polarity is reaching more of a peak and the light is dimming a little bit around here. So not that we're not strong or steadfast, but I think it's time for humanity like to have a break from the history that and all the loops that we've repeated as humanity and kind of shed that skin and go to a different level of existence and reality.
Boom. So for all of you
heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you that are connecting the dots, we have talked about, you know, what the other side calls us, the names that they give us, you know, Heather being the channel, me being the freedom bringer. And we have definitely called Quinn, I believe, on this show, the creator. And now you all know why. That's super amazing. And I would like to hear more about the process. Like, would you mind opening up about how you felt when you realized that was your mission or when that came to be? I know that's not what, you know, we didn't plan on talking about that, but I think that it's important.
Of course. Just quick correction, like my title per se, as you know, you being the freedom bringer and Heather being the channel, I am referred to as the leader. So I am like the leader of New Earth, essentially like a creator is what I do. I wouldn't call myself the creator because that's a reference to like God, you know, the one. So I don't take credit for being that fragment of God. We all are God and fragments of God, but I'm not referred to as the creator. I am a creator, but I'm referred to as the leader. So I don't want people to get up in arms about.
No, thank you for correcting that. That was me. I'm just so excited about your capacity to create.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So kind of back to your question of like how it was created, the best way for me to describe it to you is essentially going back to how this particular earth plane was created. And as this earth was created essentially from atoms, energetic atoms, essentially that had an explosion, and as they exploded, they split and multiplied. And then through evolution and through the existence and through like, the cultivation and growth of these energetic atoms, species were born and it evolved essentially. And now we have, there's humans and multiple species, and things came from, but essentially from what we call to like the Big Bang, right? So that explosion of energetic atoms creating the dust, essentially all the organisms and things that now reside in what is now Earth. So it's essentially the same concept. So all of that came from an initial thought, right? Like when we even create as individuals, we have a thought, and then we put energy behind that thought. And then therefore atoms are put into motion. That energy is putting those atoms into motion, which then creates whatever it is that you're trying to create. So and the same thing you could look at as human life in the same way, like biologically speaking, like two cells come together to create an entirely new thing. That new thing multiplies and splits. It becomes a greater thing. Then it actually is born. It manipulates its form into various degrees throughout its life cycle. And then it essentially returns to like the dust in which it came. So essentially the creation of New Earth is along that same philosophy. So me like nailing down or kind of beating everybody over the head with the idea that like love is the core value of New Earth, taking the molecule of love combined with the molecule of, or the energy of peace and the energy of ease, and essentially bundling that with flow and movement of energy, and compressing those all multiple ideas into a single atom, a single new creation, a single atom that represents all those different molecules and energies. And so then me having that idea, putting energy behind it, that creates, growth for that particular molecule. Then it becomes cultivated by my conscious and subconscious, and me manipulating it based on how I feel like what I think it should become and what it resonates with and what it should, be like. And then through the evolution of its growth and its cultivation, a planet is developed. So it's a hologram, just like the Earth that we live in and every other planet that exists in our current Earth or solar system. So it's essentially a hologram. You could call it a program or however you want to look at it, but the density that we experience is just density from like a programming feedback loop, which gives us that tactile feedback that makes us brain think that everything is solid, when in reality it's a hologram or gas, you could say. So that's essentially like the nuts and bolts of like how it was created.
Not sure where we lost her to.
She's back. You're muted.
And you're on mute.
We broke the internet on my side here.
Oh no.
Oh no. Okay, well, we can't see you, so whenever you get your camera back online, I think that's incredible, Quinn. I think that just like when you first started talking about it, the taking the vibration of love and the peace and the ease, and you bring them together, I was like, sounds like an amazing chocolate chip cookie recipe, which makes me so happy. I think that's really beautiful, like how you put that together, and you've been doing this in so many lifetimes. So when you've done this in previous lifetimes, what has made it different this time? Like, why were you successful this time as opposed to previous times?
Well, I think the secret sauce, or the difference this time than all my previous lives, is that taking that like programming approach, essentially taking it from a sense of like, when we create something, normally we like think of like, okay, I want a car, right? Or I want a house or whatever. And you can make adjustments to that car, or you can make adjustments to that house, or you can if you get a dog, you have to get a different dog. If you want a different type of dog, you can't like change the type of dog on the fly, but like essentially if you write a program, if you need to make changes to that program on the fly, then you can go and edit the code. And as most people know, that you can program a video game, and variables can represent trees and the environment, and you can manipulate and patch and update the game, like, or just the environment on the fly. And I think that's the difference, is before having the intention of creating the planet and then putting it into motion, and then potentially thinking about a concept that like I might have missed or something I wanted to implement, but now it's too late because I'm already past a certain part of the process that I would have to like start completely over if I wanted to implement it. This allows me to essentially make iterations or have different like staging environments for the actual thing. So if I want to like, if there's a lack of a specific resource, or there's an abundance of something, or there needs to be something, or there's a lack of something, then that can always be adjusted, increased, decreased, essentially on the fly, with me having that connection. I mean, it's more the way that my like engineer brain like interacts with the creation of New Earth and how I'm connected with it. But that's essentially what that way of like manipulating is essentially what allows me now to keep things like up to date, versus like having a version and then hoping that version just fits the mold. Now, if something needs to be updated, I can essentially update it when I need to, versus having to create something completely new in its entirety. So I think that's the main difference that this particular living in this particular time and space allows me to do, and has like opened my eyes for, because humanity is at the brink of its technology right now. So me living in this particular time and space gives me that perspective to incorporate those like methodologies into my creations.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow.
Okay. So I have a question. I'm not really sure how to ask it. How will we know when we've arrived?
Of course. A great question. So it'll be different for other people. It'll happen gradually and naturally for some people. It might happen, abruptly for other people. Or like you said, you might be born there. So to travel there, you have to essentially raise your vibration to a specific state where you're always like residing in the sixth density, right? Because you can't physically reside somewhere if you're like dipping and, going up and down, like the sixth, correct? So like if we're in the third and fourth, that's because we're in the third density right now, like the physical density or whatever, that's third density. And like when we kind of astral travel and we do things on an energetic level, we're not like doing things on like the third dimension, we're doing things on a higher dimension. So for us to like physically reside somewhere different, that requires like like it's a higher density level, but it's a less dense like environment. We need to raise our baseline vibration to the sixth, because that's where that particular earth plane or that planet's plane or environment exists. That's like the bottom line, right? So as we experience love and joy and ease and flow, we pop in and out of like fourth and fifth, and potentially, experience six or versions of six on some level. And being connected to New Earth and kind of grounding yourself to it and being aware of its existence and kind of like drawing from it, it'll help you raise your vibration, because what it has to offer is only higher density than what you currently reside at. So once you get there, once your baseline is essentially six, and you're not exposed to hate or fear or all those negative lower densities, then you get closer and closer to actually assimilating with that density and being able to physically reside on that density versus third, fourth, and fifth. So for some people, it'll be like a gradual and natural thing. Like they'll the elevation of their vibration will happen like quicker or faster or slower based on where they're at and like the effort they do to like raise their vibration. You know, if people are in constant state of fear or anger or hate, they're not helping themselves raise their vibration. So it might take someone longer to actually make that transition. But someone who regularly lives on a fourth, fifth, like, you know, density, like their emotions more come from a place of love, it'll happen quicker, faster, and they'll get access to the new planet a lot easier. And it'll be like seamless as if like they never left the other planet. And people who are actually aware of the work and the new experiences they have, they'll be aware that they're actually there. You know, some people will just wake up one day and be like, oh my gosh, like I'm in a new place completely. There's probably very few of those versus the natural progression, but they'll be welcomed with someone that they already know and are familiar with to actually like connect the dots of what has happened. So just kind of.
So you won't just wake up some random place.
No, it's
yourself.
not. Right, exactly. So obviously kind of alluding to the fact that like we eventually will like teleport there, that like the physical place or where this planet resides physically is too far for us to like actually travel, especially with humanity's technology right now. Like we don't have the capability to travel that distance that quickly to actually get there that fast. So we would die before we actually showed up. So the quickest and the easiest and the most seamless way is to like essentially teleport ourselves there. And that might seem outlandish and crazy, but like it's not like you're walking through a teleporting machine. It's more like if you actually accept the notion or the reality that you're living in a hologram, then like you physically transporting to another hologram or being injected into a different hologram isn't all that wild. It's a lot easier for you to like wrap your brain around. So like as you assimilate with the higher density, then you're physically teleported there. So you can still experience it in this place on some level, but until you actually, your baseline is at 6, you won't be like physically teleported to the new like hologram to be able to like tactically or like physically interact with it.
How will our physical change once we arrive there?
So like disease and illness brings a lot of like hate and sadness and depression and anger. So those things don't exist because those things like breed essentially lower, you know, vibration or lower emotions, right? And a lot of stuff and a lot of illnesses you could say are like manifested or kind of like created by people's like lifestyles and thought processes and the environment that they grew up in. So if they didn't really like have the idea that like, you know, my mom always had breast cancer or whatever, then like they wouldn't essentially assume that they're going to have breast cancer and then kind of like invite that into their reality. You know, if people are just like, oh, well, there's breast cancer never runs in my family, then like I'm assuming that most of those people who aren't like cognizant aware that like, oh, we have a, you know, breast cancer runs in their family, they're probably less likely to actually have it unless they're doing things that invite cancer into your lifestyle. So physically, illnesses and diseases won't exist. And if someone were to ever get a disease or illness or get sick, technology exists where it's kind of just like immediately wiped away. So if someone like, you know, got food poisoning or, you know, got some sort of infection or whatever, there's things there that are quick remedies like, you know, a Band-Aid or whatever, but it actually heals your ailment very rapidly. So
will we look different though?
You physically, I mean, no, there's not like, you're not gonna like grow spots or like have to be a different like species to like exist there. I mean, things are, if you would like to, like, you know, if you have like the intention of wanting to look different or wanting to like physically represent there with the less resistance that you experience on this plane that you will have over there, I'm sure that would be much easier for you to create or manifest or like adjust for yourself, if you did want some sort of like physical change. But as far as like how long you live and all that and like life cycle there, it's more of the idea that like the more that you give, the more that you receive. So like if you're a very active part of the community, like you live a long time. That's why I feel like, you know, people who live to like 100 or over 100, they're still like, you know, living in some farm in the middle of nowhere, like still doing the thing that they've been doing for the last 80 years. They're like still trying to contribute. They're still trying to live their life. They're still giving back in any way possible. Those are the people that live the longest. So if you're just kind of like soaking up what there is to offer, but not really like giving it an even exchange in return, then you'll live a lesser life. Not like lesser in the idea of that you won't experience, you know, peace, love, flow, and bliss, but you won't, the longevity of your life won't be as long because you're not contributing to like, you're not giving back with love, right? You're more absorbing the love than sending it back. So yeah.
So if you are and maybe you don't know the answer to this question, so I'm just going to throw it out here, just see what happens. But so if somebody is contributing from a place of love a lot, and as they reside on the new earth plane, and they, you know, they're living to be a very old age, and they love giving the love and receiving the love and all of that, and there's no end in sight for them, how do they decide to leave? Like, well, what if they did, like, can they just be like, I've had enough, I see ya, peace out, go to sleep, and just die?
They're not going to live forever. They're not going to be immortal based on the fact that there still will be a life cycle, just like there's a life cycle for everything. I mean, even stars and planets and everything has a life cycle. Everything goes through a period of life and death, and like, you know, returning back to where it came from. So, and I think even now, people get to a certain age and like on a spiritual level, they're just like, I'm ready to, like, I've done everything I need to do. I've experienced everything I want. My life's journey is complete. It's time for me to go. And I think some people have gone out that way in this plane now. Like they're just kind of on an energetic level decided they've done the thing, and they're like, you know, see you family on the other side. So I think that's definitely an option. And I think you had mentioned before, will it get boring? And I never answered that question. It's a possibility. I mean, if you're living in a state of constant like love and flow and ease and peace and bliss, and depending on the type of person that you are or what lives you previously had, you might get bored of it, but it's not that you can't reincarnate and live a different life somewhere else. But this is the opportunity for humanity to like take a break from all the stuff that's going on right now. And again, if you don't want to come to New Earth, you don't have to. If you still want to live in like the third, fourth, and fifth densities, you can stay on this planet, and you don't have to actually focus on assimilating your energetic vibration with the sixth density, and you don't have to physically teleport there. It's a conscious as well as a subconscious decision. So you're not forced to go. It's not like anybody's going to be abducted, or like it's only a matter of time before the human race is like teleported to a different planet. It's not like that, you know, and it's not like I'm wishing death upon polarity either, or lower vibrational beings. It's just that like the whole overarching experiment of Earth was coexistence of light and dark. And I think that experiment has run its course. And so now there needs to be a different experiment for humanity, or a different experience for humanity. So again, the choice is yours. Really? Yeah, for all beings, exactly. But yeah, of course, the choice is yours. You know, we still have free will, especially in this decision. So
Wow.
Wow.
There is a lot there, Quinn. A lot.
Yeah.
So you put a question in the chat. Do you communicate with octarines or other species, and do they give you information on what is coming or what to do? Yes, I have communicating with other species, and it's to me, I communicate with based on who I believe has the answers that I'm looking for. So it's not that I haven't talked to an octarine or other species. It's just that I don't necessarily communicate with them on a regular basis based on what my communication all purposes are, what information I'm trying to find out. So usually the information that I need kind of finds me. So if there is something that I need to know, usually it gets kind of shot up the ladder per se, and that particular being or race or species comes in contact with the correct people that will get me the information that I need to know. So again, we're all connected and we're all on a spiritual and energetic level aware of each other. So that's kind of how things work. And me coming into regular communication with who I am on an energetic level, that's kind of how I receive the information. And then it kind of consciously comes in as like a thought. So
Quinn, would you say that you took a lot of direction during this process of creation from like the creator, from God? Like, did you have conversations directly with God or any other beings specifically, or collective of beings, to help you create this, mold this, I don't know, all of the things that you did to get to this point?
yeah, I mean, I definitely have talked to God specifically around this creation and actually putting it into motion. Like actually kicking it off when I had created it. And I've talked to, what who Heather refers to as the collective, like the collective vibrations of, emotions, and kind of like feedback from different guides and spirits as well. At the end of the day, like it's my creation. So I created what I believed is like what I believe humanity should experience. And I've kind of, because I've had so many iteration of doing this, I kind of have an idea of what I want and what I want to evolve to. But I absolutely have had other people. It's not just me doing this on myself. Like there's definitely a lot of support from the universe in deciding what I want to do and how to do it. But them being supportive of me and what I'm trying to create, being the best part. So yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Victoria asked in the comments there, how do we choose to move to New Earth?
So subconsciously, I'm assuming make a decision on a subconscious level. If your soul wants to go there, you will. And then consciously, obviously, you have the decision too. Like if you just feel like you still want to experience this plane, you can stay, even though our soul and our guides and our high self tell us and our guide us, we still have free will on a conscious level, right? So even if my journey was to create said planet and I didn't want to do it this time around, then that's my conscious choice to not actually do my life's work, then I would come back around the sun again and try it over again until I actually did it, or not, but so that's the beauty of free will. So if Victoria, if that's something that you're interested in experiencing, then all you have to do is just kind of just have the idea, set the intention that that's kind of what you want to do. If that's what you feel in your heart, that that's where you want to go or what you want to experience, and that feels good to you, then I believe then that's where you'll end up for sure.
Wow. You know,
Like my head is blown off.
I
completely.
and I can only imagine what other people are thinking, because let's be honest, this is not the first time that we've heard all of this information. We've had these conversations. The three of us particularly have been brought together for a specific reason. Um, and I still find it mind blowing. So, I hope you guys put on your helmets before you started watching to keep your brains intact. If you guys got some questions, throw them in the chat box there. Oh man, where do we go from here? Do you want to talk a little? I know you kind of mentioned a few different beings that already reside there, or I think you said that they're already living there. Is that correct?
Yeah, species or like multi-dimensional beings that already vibrate on that level, they're free to enter. If they come from a place of love, then essentially they're allowed to go. So there are certain species that already reside on New Earth. I'm part of my work is to help usher humanity to get them to New Earth, or the ones that want to go at least. So, getting people to learn to vibrate on a higher frequency, to bring in the stuff that they want, to get them closer to that higher density, and assimilating them to the point where once they get to New Earth, they won't need me to co-create or to help them move through that transition of frequency. They'll already be there, and they can already bring in and experience whatever they want to experience at that point, with much more ease, because there won't be any resistance, essentially, right?
So if when we're talking about species, we're talking about, I'm going to call them like humanistic species,
Sure.
Maybe have arms and legs and talk and whatever.
Yeah.
But what about like animals? When you were creating, did you exclude any animals?
No, of course not. I mean, I don't, I don't want this to, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that were drawn on from, Earth's creation. Every animal has a particular job that creates this this harmony of this perfect system that essentially like is sustainable and regenerative, that like all supports itself, right? There's also like a certain life cycle of animals eating other animals, or insects eating other insects, but they're still doing their job, they're still living their life, and they're still living off of their instincts, or from all that stuff. So I still want to preserve that way of life. I mean, I still think animals have a beautiful impact on humanity, and without them we would be in a much darker place right now. And not to be weird or anything, but like I enjoy eating food. So not that I'm like an advocate of the way that like cows and pigs and like farmers and things have like been commercialized and processed in a terrible way, but I believe in like sustainable regenerative farming, and I believe that's important to cultivate. And I still want that experience and that respect of like, using the whole animal, killing them in a proper way, giving them a respectful life, like allowing them to live their life in the way that they were born to live. And then once their time is done, they give back by, giving their flesh or their body to people who can receive that nourishment. And that way you're actually getting a higher level frequency of energy. Like when you go to Burger King or McDonald's or whatever, and you get a hamburger there, those cows are massively processed, and they're probably under extreme amounts of stress their entire life. And before they're killed, you're consuming that energy. And I don't want that to be consumed by humanity in a higher level density place. So, that's another part of it, is animals will definitely exist, but in a way of harmony, and not one species abusing the other species. That balance will remain.
How about unicorns?
I mean, there will be a lot of different species, things that are like life is much more vibrant there and exciting. You can kind of see it as like, if you've watched, Star Wars or whatever, there's aliens that communicate and still interact. And, it's not like going to be a bunch of humanistic species walking around and they're just from a different planet. There's going to be like a wide range of multidimensional beings there that, won't look like us because their DNA is different than ours. The environment that their, physical body is used to is different. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing if there's unicorns and mosquitoes because I will personally.
Mosquitoes won't bite.
Well, that's maybe how, I don't know how else it would be, but
maybe it won't hurt when they bite.
It seems like we could do probably away with mosquitoes, not to throw a hint out there to the leader, but
it might be really important for the ecosystem.
It could be. That's funny.
Wow.
Well, we are just about out of time. So if anybody has a question for Quinn before we wrap up, we're going to start to kind of wrap this up. Jodie, do you have more questions for this spectacular presence we have on our show today?
Oh man, I really love this conversation, Quinn, and I'm so glad that we finally have this discussion openly. And I'm just, I'm also like alongside Heather, like one step below Heather, your biggest fan, cheering you on. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. You're also doing, I think it's important that we bring to light that you're doing, or you're going to do an event. The date hasn't been announced, but to take people to New Earth to see it. And I don't know if I said that correctly. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So I want people to essentially experience New Earth, because for those who can't physically reside there immediately, which is most of us at this time, I can at least take you on a journey through meditation, and we can astral travel there. So anybody who is familiar with like guided meditation or has ever like astral traveled or anything like that, I'm putting together an event for people to join in and to kind of be a part of the experience of seeing what it'll be like, or at least depending on how you receive information, you can, if you're a visual person, see it. If you're more like an emotional person, feel it. But that is something definitely in the works, which will be up hopefully within the next month. I would like to announce it. So I'm working towards getting that all squared away for everybody, especially now that I'm talking this big game. I need people to, see it for their own eyes. So,
and I think that this is really important. For me anyway, I think about going to New Earth, taking this journey with you. I think that it will make the subsequent journeys and raising to this new vibrational place so much easier, because you know where you're going, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a roadmap. So this
absolutely.
Is really cool. I will definitely be there with bells on, and I hope that the community that we have here too will come and shout it from the rooftops as well when you do it. So we will definitely let you guys know when that date is. Maybe
absolutely.
Depending on when it is, bring Quinn back to talk about it, to promote it, and support you with that for sure.
Great. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we had one final question from Vicky. She wanted to know how the communication style will be. Will it be telepathic, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that telepathy is possible now. It's really just how in tune are you with your communication methods, and like if you can differentiate your own personal thoughts from something dropping in, and then actually being open to receiving, and like how close and how connected you are with the person you're communicating with. So I feel like, yes, definitely telepathy in New Earth for sure. Just because of the simple fact that we'll be living on like a higher density, and it'll be easier for us to be more open and live in as one and like more communal, because it'll be based off, loving one another and giving back. And that'll be much easier to connect and make those relationships with. And so people will be more in tune with each other's vibration, allowing them to communicate on that higher scale.
Wow.
So exciting.
Exactly. I took the words right out of my mouth. So incredibly exciting. Heather, do you have any final questions for Quinn?
Can we go now? Let's go. So exciting. I'm just so excited about it. I can't wait for the event. I think that being able to take that special journey with you and everybody who joins us, I think that will be just a really, really special experience and a fantastic opportunity. So thank you for
absolutely
for doing this. I think it would be,
thank you for having me.
It's going to be spectacular.
Amazing. Well, if you've enjoyed the show today, make sure that you click that like button, that you are subscribed, and that you hit the notification button so that you never miss an episode. Next week, we are in alignment with this theme. We are going to continue to talk about other beings that are out there. We're going to talk about this question. Could it be that your soul originated from another dimension entirely? We are going to dive into it and tell you where our souls originate from and have a conversation about all of that. So you don't want to miss next week's episode. Put it in your calendar.
And Quinn, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you to work with you? I know we talked a lot about New Earth and whatnot, but I know that you essentially create for others, you co-create with others. And so if somebody wishes to find you and work with you, how do they do this?
Yes, I do offer coaching for co-creation. I help you get to where you want to be or create your reality that you want to experience. You can reach me at Safe Expansion for Instagram, and my website is safeexpansion.com. It's under construction right now. I'm giving it a facelift, so that should be up in the next week or so after this thing is posted or this video is posted. But yeah, right now, easiest way on Instagram, Safe Expansion, but my website, safeexpansion.com, will be up very shortly.
Wonderful.
Woohoo. And then we'll have all of your links below this video too, so that people can get a hold of you quickly and easily so that they can create their new reality with your assistance.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, this was an awesome conversation. And thanks to everybody that's listening. We really, really appreciate you guys. And I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Bye. Have a good one.